Martha Koome was nominated by the Judicial Service Commission. Her name was sent to Parliament, to the President. She went through the entire vetting, and on the 21st day of May 2021, history was made when Martha Koome was sworn in as the first female Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. Now, there was a lot of excitement around that. I mean, we have gotten to a point where we are not even saying, it's because she's a woman. It's actually because she is qualified. People who watched the interviewing process, when the chair of the panel came out to say, we have nominated Martha Koome, you did not get any backlash of people saying, but why her? But really, but surely.
Couldn't
they have? Everybody was, yes. With that, we agree, yes, she qualifies to be a Chief Justice. Yes, she would serve as a good Chief Justice. Now, she's been in office since that day, the 21st of May, 2021, until today. She's already served over 100 days in office. She's already gone through, she's gotten into the order of the way things are working in her office. She already has a plan of what she'd like to do with her tenure as Chief Justice, what she'd like to be remembered by, how she'd like to see the judiciary deliver justice to the ordinary Kenyan, how she'd like to see the judiciary as an institution stand and relate with the other arms of government. Let's talk about whether it's a court users and the Court Users Association, whether it's the arms of government, the legislature, the executive, and we'll be having a conversation about all this with the Honorable Chief Justice, who joins us on the line. Honorable Chief Justice, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's good to have you on the show. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you for having me in your show.
Chief Justice, if you were here with us in the studio, we'd have offered you a very nice seat. It would have made it leather. It's a leather seat, a very good seat. We'd have called it the hot seat and served you some warm breakfast. But we understand that you're busy. You had some meetings in your office, and so we are doing this via video link. Nonetheless, we appreciate you coming here. Allow us to make that seat that you're sitting on the hot seat for the day.
Thank you. I look forward to coming for the breakfast.
Very good. Now, let's just start. I know CT will ask this question. How would you like, how do we refer to a Chief Justice, in order of protocol? Is it Your Honor, Your Ladyship,
Your Honorable
Mheshimiwa,
Your Excellency?
Whichever you're comfortable with, I don't mind being called Martha because that's my name.
Oh, my father would never allow that.
Madam Honorable Chief Justice, we are not going to call you Martha.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, then just call me Chief Justice.
Yes.
Okay, that's good enough. We've just been talking about, looking back on that Friday, the 21st day of May, when you were sworn in as Chief Justice, making history as the first female Chief Justice in the country, and everybody celebrated. Now, you've been in office for more than 100 days, and this is not new for you. I mean, you have served in the judiciary for many years, both in the bar, and you have been practicing in the courts for many years, even before that. On the bench and before that in the bar. When you took up the job of Chief Justice, are there things that you realized that you had not known before about how to run the institution of the judiciary? What experiences and lessons have you had so far?
Am I listening?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Eric. Of course, Titi Muga for having me in your show today. And thank you very much for the very warm words of encouragement, congratulatory messages that I received from SpiceFM and from Kenyans generally. I'm very, very grateful. What are the surprises that I found in the office of the Chief Justice? As you have said, I have been in this profession for the last 33 years. 15 years practicing as an advocate, appearing in this court every day, and also taking part in ensuring that we get the independence of the judiciary, we get constitutional reforms that guarantee us independent institutions, including democratic space and respect for human rights. So eventually I became a judge and I served from Malindi to Rokichogyo. I know what happened in the courts. But of course, being Chief Justice was a new job that I had seen from a distance. So when I came in office, there were a few surprises. For instance, I found there was no staff in the office of the Chief Justice. All the members of staff that served the former Chief Justices left with them. They are what you would call political appointees. So you come to a very busy office, you find you require expertise, you require advice in legal, in communications, in finance, in ICT, and you're being called upon to attend matters in the Supreme Court, to attend matters in the Judicial Service Commission, to attend to the National Council on the Administration of Justice, including the Kenya law. At the same time, Kenyans also are asking for this and the other, and we're all alone because I only found a secretary who has served the previous Chief Justices, but she was on a terminal leave to proceed on retirement. But she had been asked to kindly wait until I come and give me the keys and hand over to me. So for me, that was a great surprise that I have to run this office from fumes in my system. It takes time to recruit in that and get staff in place. So that was one of the greatest shocks that I got. The rest I could anticipate. I knew we needed judges. We are short of human resource, asset capital.
Yeah.
We say we need 9,000, but we are 5,000, which is just slightly above 50%. So that I was aware of. And so therefore, I hit the ground running because we had to deliver.
Indeed. Honorable Chief Justice, just a couple of days after you assumed office, on the 3rd of June, you said in an interview recently, you wrote to the President and you said you required an urgent meeting with him to discuss 3 matters that you thought required some urgent intervention. One, administration of justice, and this has also included appointment of the judges who were pending appointment, actualization of the Judiciary Fund, and budget for the Judiciary. Now, the following day, after your letter, the President appointed the 34 judges. 6 have not yet been appointed. But have you received any response from the President with regards to your request for a meeting to date?
Thank you, Raki. Yes, I found that we were almost grounding to a hope when it comes to accessing justice to Kenyans. Because as you know, the Court of Appeal and now only 11 judges. And those 11, one serves as the director of Judicial Training Institute, another one also double serve as representative to the Judicial Service Commission. So we were almost operating below the threshold of the constitutional requirement that judges of the Court of Appeal should never be raised and served. When I went to Kisumu, I was really concerned because the Court of Appeal in Kisumu, Mombasa, and Nyeri had been closed for almost 2 years. Appeals are there waiting to be heard, but there are no judges. When it came to the environment and land matters, the case was the same. One judge in Kisumu was having 3 counties. And you know how emotive land matters affect her. So I was so concerned. I came and I wrote to His Excellency and said, can I please have a meeting? I am yet to learn how to communicate effectively with the executive and the legislature. But you know, those are very busy offices. Sometimes they do not get time to reply. So the Gazette notice advertised for the appointment of 34 judges. And I was very grateful because those 34 have gone a long way to assist in ensuring we have access to justice. Especially in the environmental law court, one judges, and were able to send judges in 8 new counties where there was no judge hearing environment and land matters. So is the employment and labor court, where we still have a shortage is the High Court. So we will continue to dialogue to see that more judges are appointed. So even if I never got a formal written letter acknowledging my letter, I've continued to engage to see how we can get the 6 judges appointed in many forums that I get, including this one, so that we can move forward to include more judges in the High Court, so that where the 7 left the High Court to go to the Court of Appeal, those vacancies are still waiting to be filled. And we need more judges, especially now that we are going towards the election here.
Yeah.
And the court will be concentrating on election disputes. Yes. So dialogue takes many forms. It can take a written letter. It can take a meeting on the sidelines of another event. It can take many forms.
It can also take action. Thank you very much. Having a conversation with Chief Justice Martha Koome, who joins us via video link from her office. From what she said so far, CT, and one, the getting into office and then realizing the weight of the work and the task at hand, the kind of things that she needs to do on a daily basis. She has to manage not just the institution of the judiciary, but also manage the relations with institutions that deal with the judiciary on a daily basis. There is the administration of justice, there is the other arms of government, there is consideration of the budget, there is chairing the Judicial Service Commission. It's a lot of work.
Actually, as I say, the Honorable Chief Justice has her work cut out for her.
Yep.
Now, in more ways than one, we've had a Chief Justice who had a human rights background. The Honorable Chief Justice Martha Koome has a sterling record as a human rights advocate. And now to add on to that, there is a tag of the first female Chief Justice. So over and above everything else that she said, and this one I have to ask Madam Chief Justice is, how do you plan to do things differently? Because the expectations from where I'm sitting are superhuman. Those are the expectations. One, you are the first. One, you have a human rights background. How do you plan to do things differently?
CJ, that's a question to you.
Yes, thank you very much. How do we intend to do things differently? We are guided by the Constitution. That is very transformative. Everything that we do should be according to the Constitution because it has something for everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
If you're talking about women, they are covered in the Constitution. You're talking about human rights, they are covered in the Constitution. If you're talking about the marginal rights, they are covered in the Constitution. So my vision is built on what I found having been done by my predecessor. It is only taking a small transaction to ensure there is social justice. Because the two blueprints, the Judiciary Transformation Framework by my predecessor, Chief Justice William Mutunga, looked at building the institutions of the judiciary to respond to the expectations of the Constitution. Strengthen our infrastructure, strengthen the access to justice, focusing on human rights. Also the budget, and also ICT as an enabler. The sustained judicial transformation by my predecessor, Chief Justice David Maraga, looked at how to transform the judiciary, make it accountable, ensuring the individual responsibility by the judges to ensure there is access to justice, ensure there is no corruption, and ensure that cases are handled judiciously and the cases that are above 5 years old. So I'm continuing with that very strong foundation, with a trajectory on we cannot only reform the judiciary, but also reform the society,
Right.
social transformation. I'm looking at how we can empower Kenyans so that they are the agents of their own circumstances, to be aware of their rights, how they can claim their rights, how they can use the most raw approaches that we have to resolve disputes, how we can have a society that is not prone to conflict. We can resolve our conflicts using the various most raw approaches such as the court and next mediation, the small claims court, which in my view is going to be the game changer because it is going to be accessible to Kenyans. The jurisdiction of that court is 1 million shillings, a claim for commercial activities or personal injury claims. And the cases in the small claims court are finalized within 60 days. So I'm looking at how we can reduce the distance between the people and the court. Right now, somebody has to travel 175 kilometers an average to access justice. And you can imagine this is a child who has been defiant, and they have to travel that distance to reach the court, another distance to reach the police, another distance to reach the health service. So how can we have a one-stop shop? And that's what we are looking at, especially the small claims court, that we have been able to start the negotiations with the Nairobi County, the Nairobi Metropolis, which are being built in the informal sector, Nyayo, Embakasi, Kasarani, Bazare, and Dagoretti. Because people don't have to travel all that way to come to Milimani, to the small claims court. So that is my trajectory from the previous two blueprints, that we are looking to empowering the community. When it comes to the justice delivery, I am the president of the Supreme Court. I'm looking towards building the capacity of the magistrates, of the adjudicators in the small claims court, and even the court and next mediation and alternative justice resolution mechanisms, including ADR, so that we have standards across board that ensure that there is efficiency, there is cost effectiveness, and there is access to justice, so that no case should be in court for more than 3 years. Kenyans do not want to keep coming to court year in, year out. And I'm really in conversation with magistrates and judges, and we have almost come to an agreement that nobody wants in their docket a case that is 5 years and above. It's actually a cause of concern to all of us in the judiciary. If in your docket you have a case which is 5 years old and above.
And above. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, Chief Justice, there's a lot of work to be done just from what you're saying. And maybe in realization of this, there was another letter that came from your office on the 13th of July when you were writing to Parliament and said, you know what, basically enough of this, summoning of our officers into Parliament at whim, and we have work to do. And you kind of put your foot down and said, this cannot happen anymore. What was the thrust of that particular communication, and what was behind that, really? And how has that been affected going forward?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Walter. I think you have put it very well. What I was seeking is dialogue with the Speaker of our National Assembly and the Senate, and also a dialogue with the respective committees. For them to understand, judiciary is unique. Judiciary is independent, and our independence is provided in the Constitution. They cannot direct us how to do our work, but we are accountable to Parliament for the resources that are entrusted to us. Very unique because the Judiciary and the Judicial Service Commission, our accounting officer is one, our chief registrar, Madam Anna Mandi. So one day she received 3 invitations to attend 3 committees, and all of them are asking similar questions. Why haven't we recruited for certain positions? So you cannot appear in 3 committees one day, one person. You have to cut yourself into 3 pieces. So this is why I wrote a very innocent letter asking, can we please discuss this matter and come up with a coordinated approach on how can we answer to you effectively, because we must answer on resources. And we must also agree in areas that will not look like you are micromanaging or directing the judiciary what to do, who to hire, or even when to hire. You can just ask us how we have spent the money, because that we must account for it. But, we need to engage in this dialogue, this conversation. We need to cooperate, because at the end of the day, we are serving one Kenyan, and everybody is concerned about the administration of justice. So even MPs and senators, they are concerned about the administration of justice. So if they say they will not give judiciary money, they will suffer. It is the Kenyans who will suffer, because then we will not have costs operating in those areas, in some of their constituencies, in some of their areas. Therefore, we must think, and indeed we have moved forward. We have moved from that position, and now we are talking to one another. We are understanding one another. We are understanding the unique nature of the services that we render, the unique nature of our position as judges, because you cannot appear before Parliament. Some of them are cases here before us. They cannot go to grill us about the way we do our work. So this is a very delicate balance that we have to strike, to understand that even if we are independent, at some stages we are interdependent.
Right.
So how do we navigate this interdependence without looking like we are micromanaging or entering into one another's reign?
Right. So did they not understand this unique position that the judiciary holds before your communication? Because if we're looking at the 3 arms of government, the executive, the judiciary, the legislature, because it's not as though the judiciary sits on a side. There are 3 arms of government working in congruence, or they should be. did it then require your communication to make this position known? There's been, the thought that the judiciary is not recognized as being on par with the executive and the legislature. What would you have to say about that?
I think any government which does not recognize one arm of the government is ended to disaster, because the three arms must work together to serve Kenyans. It's like a three-legged stool. You remove one leg and the stool will wobble and fall. So everybody must be concerned that the institution of the judiciary must be respected, be supported to be a very strong, independent defender of the Constitution, the defender of our democracy, the defender of our human rights, must be respected by all. Because we do not have ourselves in the judiciary. We serve Kenyans. We administer justice. But along the way, as people continue doing their work, sometimes maybe they forget that the other institution is sensitive and must be treated with the sensitivity, respect that is required under the Constitution. So sometimes people go out of the boundaries, and this is why we must continue to talk and dialogue, and never look like they are going out of their bounds. We come together and say, look, this is our area, and this is your area. But we need to interact here and there so that we serve Kenyans properly.
When it comes to the same relations, Madam Chief Justice, with the other arms of government, recently there's also been conversation about the judiciary seeking to have a sort of its own security unit, even if it's coming from the police service, but like a judiciary security arm. How far has it gone, and what is informing this? Why does the judiciary want to have its security as sort of aside from those that are deployed elsewhere?
A very good question. And this has been a request and a plan that has been in the works for the last 10 years. At least even before the new constitution, because as you are aware, Parliament has its own security, its own police unit, the Kenya Railway, Central Bank, the Kenya Ports Authority. The judiciary is a very huge institution. We have our establishment in 130 locations in this country, court buildings. We do serious work, very sensitive work. We come into conflict with dangerous elements, terrorists, and that kind of people. We need security, very serious security. I don't know, Rafiq, whether you have ever visited the court, especially the Supreme Court building, and seen how vulnerable we are.
Yep.
Therefore, when I took office, everywhere I went, there was an outcry. Judges, we don't have security, we are taking that. I went to the Anti-Corruption Magistrate Court and were telling me stories of how people charged in their court enter there with guns in their pockets. And they sit there, there's nothing they can do. When they leave court, they have to just get into their car. Sometimes, we give them a vehicle to take them home, but it is not enough to take some all over the location. Some they have to enter even an apartment. So, we are vulnerable. We are sitting that. And when I came, I wrote to the CS in Syria, an office of the president, and said, look, we need our own police unit. Work had been done, reports had been done by a committee of the judiciary recommended that we need our own police unit that manages our 130 force that manages the security of our judges and magistrates, but that report had not been acted on. When I look at the file, even a consultant was hired and paid some 45 million shillings some time ago to advise us on security, and they advised, the advice as a consultant was that we needed a police unit, because previously we would rely on security being dispatched to us from the Central Police, if you're talking about the Supreme Court building, for them to come and offer security here during the day or at night. But God knows whether they arrived or whether they stayed on site, because we kept on relying on some private askaris from a private security firm. So a police unit is necessary. This is a arm of government doing very serious work.
So, have you received any response from Dr. Matiang'i's office on this matter?
Absolutely. The unit is first. Were it not for COVID, we would have launched it. We have already delegated to the Judiciary a senior assistant commissioner of police in charge of our unit, and allocated at 3,000 police officers to be deployed in the judiciary.
So there's an increase in that, Madam Chief Justice, and then just yesterday we also see that there's a possible increase in court fees. And just a little while ago you talked about reducing the gap between Kenyans and justice. This seems to me as something that would increase the gap between Kenyans and justice if we're looking at a hike in court fees. And the question then for a lot of Kenyans would be, should I pay the extra to take a particular case to court, or should I sit on it and hope that, something happens? So what was the rationale, or what is the rationale behind the increase that we might likely see in court fees?
Thank you, of course, for that question. I think in the long run, we are migrating to e-filing, where you go to the portal and file your documents and make a one payment. It is going to be cheaper because you are not going to be charged for separate items. And this court fee schedule was a matter that was discussed by a committee of the Judiciary and the Law Society and agreed upon. There are many items that have been removed from being charged. So in the overall, it is going to be cheaper because you are paying a one-off payment instead of paying so many items when you do the e-filing. So I think there was misreporting on that, that we have increased the cost fees. Cost fees are not just the realm of the Chief Justice. It's a matter that is done by a dedicated committee of the RSA and the Judiciary. And this was rationalized because now we are doing a one-stop filing, e-filing, which incorporates all the other changes that would have come as independent changes. So this is not going to widen the gap. It is actually in some instances, litigants are going to save money and time. And also for the very vulnerable litigants, we always have facilities for them, indigent clients who can be exempt from paying fees when they are filing their documents.
Madam Chief Justice, one of the things that always appears to come up whenever we are talking about court processes is corruption within the corridors of our judicial system. How do you hope to deal with this, and how do you hope to keep the public informed as to the progress that you're making in dealing with these matters?
Corruption is a concern for all of us in Kenya. And when you listen to the executive, you listen to parliamentarians, you listen to all Kenyans, everybody condemns corruption. Everybody is corruption. It's a concern for us Kenyans. But why has it remained endemic in our society? In the judiciary, we are very, very concerned about this national phenomena of corruption because it's debilitating to our economy. It is perverse, it is negative. We cannot escape from it as the judiciary because we are adjudicators, we are judges, we are courts right in the middle. But the judiciary has taken many, many steps to deal with it. You recall in 2003, there was an Integrity and Anti-Corruption Committee that was known as the Radical Sanctuary.
Yep.
And out of that exercise, about 100 judicial officers, both magistrates and judges, left office because they were implicated in corruption or one or the other vices. Subsequently, we had the vetting board, which was established to also look at corruption in the judiciary. And we have continued to update our policies and procedures to ensure that we offer credible services and, we really clean our judicial system of corruption. So we have established the board person's office that deals with corruption. We have the code of conduct that declares in very strong terms that the judiciary is, we call ourselves, tolerate corruption, zero tolerance to corruption, and of course continue training, our people, on how to avoid corruption and live a very ethical life, very dignified life that can get that confidence of Kenyans. Recently, we are partnered with the EACC, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, to review and assess our systems and processes with the aim of improving our delivery of service. So we are the center of the fight against corruption because also the cases of corruption come to court. So the judiciary established the anti-corruption and economic crimes court, both at the subordinate level and at the high court. These courts dedicate themselves solely to deal with corruption matters. But as you might know, the other actors, when it comes to criminal trials, because corruption cases are criminal cases, we depend on the police to carry out investigations and bring proper evidence in court that can support the charges of corruption. We also need the DPP to prosecute these cases effectively. We also need proper roles. We have had problems, with the laws that we have against corruption. Or sometimes somebody is arrested, but the police, they say you cannot arrest us, it's an anti-corruption case, you should be arrested by the EACC. And, a crime is a crime. So, we have had all those complications, but we are doing our best. We are meeting regularly under the umbrella of the National Council on the Administration of Justice, because we all have the responsibility of ensuring we have a protective system that secures the Kenyans, we provide security and safety. We guard our national heritage, which is the resources meant for Kenyans, that do not get pilfered into people's pockets. I find a lot of support from the other agencies that we will cooperate and ensure these cases are finalized and they are prosecuted. All the old cases that are there, I'm looking forward to them being completed by the end of this year.
Madam Chief Justice, I have to ask you this question. Would you say, in your opinion, that the judicial officers of the court are adequately remunerated, incentivized, and resourced to carry out these onerous tasks that are before them on a daily basis?
That is a very good question. It's a continuous exercise for us to continuously address this issue of whether the judicial officers are properly resourced. And resources is not just the money that people earn. We require other resources to be able to function optimally. For instance, now we have gone almost digital. About, I can say, 40% of our work is being done digitally. We conduct hearings through video link, so they need airtime, they need devices that can enable them conduct these proceedings, because some of the costs have been condemned, because the buildings that we operate in are old, some have no ventilation, so the Ministry of Health condemned many. So many judicial officers, judges are working online. So we need these devices, we need the airtime, we need the connectivity. And when it comes to the pay, we are permanently engaging the Salary Regulation Commission to look at the circumstances that judges operate in. We live a very constrained life that you cannot do anything else. The work is overwhelming. So you don't have to suffer the anxiety of whether your school fees for your children are being paid. But as you know, colleagues, money sometimes is not everything. What we require also is to learn how to live within our means. And we appreciate everybody's constrained, especially during this time of the COVID-19 global pandemic. The economy is equally constrained, and we are grateful that at least we have continued to earn our salary, and therefore we remain grateful and keep on asking whether we are also giving back to the society for what we are receiving. We must ask ourselves every day, have I done my day's job to deserve these privileges that I enjoy and these days that I receive? When you remember some Kenyans have lost their jobs, businesses are closed. So we are grateful for what we have, but also when we ensure that this money that is held in disputes, in commercial disputes, in land matters, succession, in corruption, it gives the economy will be vibrant, and it will be able to support also a very vibrant judiciary.
And that's very true. Madam Chief Justice, we want to thank you very much for joining us this morning. We hope the next one, you'll be able to have you in the studio here with us. We've enjoyed the conversation with you, Chief Justice Martha Koome. Wishing you a lovely day. When are you going to launch your new vision for the judiciary?
Thank you very much, Latif. I will be inviting you next week on Thursday. We call it Justice Thursday.
Right.
I have a vision that Kenyans are put in my hands to see that we access justice to Kenyans. Because justice starts across all of us, it is in the best interest of all of us to be concerned about the judiciary and to participate in it. I look forward to a very vibrant judiciary where we have a new judiciary and the Supreme Court building. We can move out of this museum. We have the Judicial Training Institute, a state of the art, which we have built to train our judges. We have a Court of Appeal premises for our Court of Appeal judges. We have tribunals plaza, because our tribunals are spread all over the city. It's a big vision that promises to engage Kenyans in ensuring that we move together to ensure that Kenya is secure in terms of its justice.
Asante sana. We wish you a lovely day. And yes, we will be joining you on Thursday, on Justice Thursdays. Asante sana, and have a lovely day, Chief Justice.
Thank you very much.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.